Howdy partners, it's so good to be here again. There are many films that I'm looking forward to in the year 2025, but Bring Her Back is definitely on the top of that list. But even though I've been very excited for it, I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little intimidated going in. Because the previous and debut film from these Australian filmmakers, Michael and Danny Philippou, who were previously known as these really wild and avant-garde YouTubers known as Raka Raka. If you haven't seen any of their content, go check it out, it's totally unhinged. But their first feature-length film, Talk to Me, is a film that shook me to my very core. It was literally the only time in my life that I had to walk out the cinema, not because it was a bad film, but because it was just too damn effective as a horror film. God, I was not ready for that. And here they are back again, a short little detour before making the sequel to Talk to Me. And it is possible this film, Bring Her Back, has some kind of connection to it. There is even one moment in the film where the words Talk to Me are spoken, so it was a nice little clin d'oeil. And it is interesting that the conception of this film was made in parallel to Talk to Me, but in any case, Bring Her Back is very much in its own lane, and my word is this film just as deranged as the last one. And in many ways, the Philippou brothers are upping the ante, which is no small feat given the last film. So as I'm sure you know, there are many kind of horror films out in the world. Some, even if they're super gory, are generally a lot of fun to watch. Look no further than the last Final Destination film. Gruesome and disgusting, yes, but not really something that's going to keep you up at night. Then there's this film, which falls into a whole other category. And I think the quality that really defines the experience is that it is emotionally devastating. There's this deep sadness that permeates the entire experience of this film. And at the core of it, it is very much a family drama. I really love the interaction of the brother and sister here. The way the older brother takes care of his visually impaired stepsister is really sweet and tender. I totally buy into their relationship, and I love the little shorthand messages they have for each other. But that stability they have in their life gets totally uprooted by the death of their father at the very start of the film. So it's not too much of a spoiler because from the very start they get relocated to the home of their new foster mother, played by a brilliant Sally Hawkins. And if you're thinking, Sally Hawkins, well, that sounds like an amazing deal. You might have that impression because of her glowing portrayal in the film Paddington. But here she has a very different energy. Even if at first glance she does have that happy-go-lucky demeanor, you can tell right from the start that there's something deeply wrong going on. And I actually really love that first introductory sequence where we meet her. There's a really intricate layering of details that are hidden in plain sight. Some that are obvious red flags, some that are a little bit more obscure. Honestly, it was a brilliant scene and a great attention to detail. And it is refreshing to see Sally Hawkins in this batshit crazy, full-on horror role. I don't think she's ever made that kind of film before. One might argue that The Shape of Water somewhat falls in the horror category because it's a Guillermo del Toro film, but here there's no ambiguities whatsoever, and she is just the perfect casting for this character. And I really do love the fact that her character was a therapist, so in another world she would have been the perfect caregiver for these kids. But now she weaponizes her professional knowledge to manipulate and gaslight these kids to her own machinations, which is truly twisted to have this kind of child abuse thematic at the core of this film. So it makes for a very shaky emotional foundational start of this film that weakens your defenses for all the rest of the shit that's coming, and boy is there a lot coming. Honestly, this is some of the most disturbing stuff I've seen on the big screen. And even if we have seen Talk to Me and we know that, okay, we're in for a twisted experience, you don't quite see it coming in that way. Everyone in the cinema was shook. I was so disturbed that I just couldn't sit still. You will flinch watching this film. And if you're the kind of horror film watcher that has a really tough skin, kind of like I do, frankly, then maybe this is the kind of film for those adrenaline junkies that haven't been able to find that film that gets under their skin. So yeah, that's 2 films in a row with these insane Australian filmmakers that have done that to me. Once again, just truly some of the most disturbing things I've seen on screen. Other areas of the film where I do want to shower compliments. I did mention Sally Hawkins, of course, and that's a no-brainer. We all know that she's a great actress. But the 3 kids playing in this film are absolutely brilliant, a new highlight in child acting skills in recent years. The brother and sister, as I mentioned, played by Billy Barrett and Sora Wong. Like I mentioned, I totally buy into the relationship and I really love what's going on over there, and they both explore their character with great nuance and depth. Once again, shockingly so for their age, and I do love the kind of imperfections they have. They're not your typical hero and heroines you find in Hollywood films, who are all perfect without any flaws whatsoever. They have their rough edges, but it makes them human, and it makes for some really great character drama. But the real highlight is that little kid who plays Oliver, played by Jonah Wren Phillips. He has by far the meatiest role in the film. And the part of his acting skills that is most impressive is that, for the most part, this is a non-spoken role. So there's actually a lot that's communicated through his comatose body language, the look in his eye, and you're always just wondering, like, what the hell happened to you and what is going on over there? Quite the little mystery that will get resolved soon enough. Have no fear. Speaking of soon enough, thank God this one was only, what, like 97 minutes long in total? It was long enough. It was an excruciating experience. And I do just want to remind the fact that this kid is super young, like I think 12 years old, at least today. So maybe he was, what, like 10, 11 when they were filming it? There's some truly twisted and messed up things that this kid has to go through in the making of this film. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it makes me think of the original Exorcist on how challenging and demanding that was for that child actress. In any case, I hope he's okay, because that's some truly dark places that a kid has to go to, and that implies not just for him but also for his other two co-stars, some really dark and mature subject for kids to explore in a film, but they all do it wonderfully. And it seems with directors like the Philippou brothers, they're just so wild and just goofing around the whole time. Just watch them in their interviews, so I'm confident they managed to release attention in some way throughout the production, because otherwise you're gonna have a lot of therapist bills. But I also do want to touch on the art direction in this film, because aesthetically it's some really powerful stuff. And I'm not just talking about the gore over here, which is fantastic. Bloody disgusting. Yeah, some top tier makeup and prosthetic works over here, but I do not want to go into details. You go check out the film and I assure you it will speak for itself. But I'm really blown away by a mesmerizing and truly creative and varied use of water in this film. It's a really powerful thematic that keeps showing up in many different ways. Either in the rain, the pool, even urinating yourself in bed, the washing machine, or the shower. And the shower in this film is a character unto itself. I never thought we could make a shower quite so terrifying as in this film. And there's also this imagery of circles that ties into the ritualistic aspect of this film that keeps showing up in really interesting ways in the mise en scène through this film. In terms of cinematography, this film is a banger. So if I had to be critical for a moment, perhaps Talk to Me is still my personal favorite between the two, though it is a pretty close tie. There are some laughs and logics relatively early on in the film that should come up as giant red flags, and that might be excused for the fact that, these are kids and they're just in this new foster home over here and they're just kind of going with the flow, even though that there are some really weird things going on. And perhaps there is that one moment in the film, anyone who's seen it will know what I'm talking about, and I really struggle about giving any commentary whatsoever without giving any spoilers. But once again, it just seems like a gigantic lapse in logic for the kid to leave that item over there at that moment with... Anyways, I'm just gonna stop myself there. It just seemed like a terrible idea from the start. You do not need a crystal ball to know that things are gonna go bad. And the ending itself, I'm a little split on. On one hand, I do think that there is something quite sad and, in terms of cinematography, beautifully shot. But on the other hand, I think it's a little tame in comparison to the rest of the film's avant-garde, off-the-wall nature. I do feel like in the last moments of the film, it starts to lose its edge a little bit. But even with that minute criticism, there's no question in my mind that this is a supremely disturbing horror film, and I think this will be one of the frontrunners for the best horror films of 2025. Let me tell you, it's going to be hard to top this one. The Philippou brothers did it again. Normally I would say I'm excited for their next project, but I'm genuinely terrified to see what they're going to do with more experience and more budget. Holy shit. And on that note, the film does have a relatively low budget of 50 million, and they do wonders with it. So yeah, this is a solid 8.5 out of 10, maybe scratching its way up to a 9 even. I don't know that I would recommend this one for a lot of people, because once again, it is truly disturbing and depressing, and it just really gets under your skin. I thought it was amazing when the film credits rolled, literally you heard and felt a giant in the crowd in the cinema. We were all on a knife's edge throughout the whole film, and literally everyone walking out of the cinema was just shell-shocked, and myself included. I was a little lightheaded walking out. Absolutely insane and deranged stuff, but top-tier horror filmmaking. We got some big new talent on the world stage over here. Clearly these two are not a one-trick pony. And with all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.